The brain is a muscle. You have to think of the brain as a muscle. The more you stress it, the more you use it, the better it gets. The stronger each nerve cell gets, which is really, I think, the most revolutionary way to think about exercise and what all we're doing with exercising, not just building our muscles, but really taxing our brain. And what happened with our brain is we developed parts of our brain to be the best movers, to plan, to predict, to sequence, to remember. Abstract thinking came along, and then we had words, and then we became much more verbal, and we used the same nerve cells that we evolved to help us be the best movers, to be a thinker, to be cognate.
I really believe that most people are manipulated by their brain. And the reason they're manipulated by their brain is because they don't understand what's happening. And it is my fundamental base belief that the more you know about what your brain is doing, the more you understand the chemicals that are flowing, the more you can take control of it. And in my own life, one of the earliest wins I started getting was just, I started reading about the brain. I started reading about neuropeptides and neurotransmitters, and just really understanding that there was a specific chemical that was happening at a specific moment. And you talk about faking a smile and how it actually does have an impact as long as it touches the corner of your eyes, though, and it can't be too false or it doesn't trigger the vagus nerve. And I mean, like, all of this stuff it's quantifiable, right? So you can go in and you can really look at what's happening. And once you realize what's happening, you'll be shocked at how much you can manipulate it. You'll be shocked at how much you can actually go, like what I need right now with my spouse, significant other, whatever the case may be, is I need to reconnect, right? I need to do things that are gonna pump oxytocin. I was just gonna ask you, what do you think is the most powerful rewilding technique that these guys should implement in their lives right now?
Well, I think you start with diet and exercise and sleep. I mean, the three things that are really there, and it's hard to choose one over the other. Then you add in nature, huge, mindfulness, because if you're exercising, you're more likely to get more mindful, and then that can lead to your valuing and honoring your relationships much more. You have all these built-in genetic pushes that you need to pay attention to. You need to play, you need to exercise, you need to move, you need to eat right, you need to sleep, you need to be out in nature, and you need to be connected to others. Exercise optimizes brain function in three different ways. First, it makes the learner ready to learn. It puts them in the chair. It decreases their nudginess, improves their attention, decreases their stress levels and anxiety, improves their motivation, and helps them try things that they might not have tried before. That's one. The second thing is that it creates what we call the microenvironment, or the environment within our brains where our 100 billion nerve cells are swimming around, enriches that environment and with all kinds of nutrients and neurotransmitters that make our brain cells in an optimal way ready to do what they're supposed to do when we learn, which is to change. When we learn anything, we have to encode it. We have to have our brains change in response to practice, in response to learning. And the third thing that exercise does is that it promotes the growth of brand new brain cells in our brain. We have learned in the past 10 or 15 years that we humans too have stem cells in all of our organs, including our brains. And one pocket in particular is near the hippocampus, or the memory station, central station for our brain. And exercise promotes our cells to change and become brand new nerve cells, better than anything else that we know of.
But what about the sedentary lifestyle affecting our ability actually to learn? Talk to me about that.
Well, there's in a couple ways. One is that it decreases our physical movement, which has an impact on our brain readiness to learn. It also promotes us to gain weight, and when we begin to gain weight, it taxes our brains a little more. And as we age, we get more glucose and fat in our bloodstream, and this causes sluggishness in our brain cells and eventual cognitive decline and even Alzheimer's disease.
So would you say that young people today who overdo it on the video games and lead too sedentary a lifestyle are not as intelligent as those from a couple of generations ago?
Well, it's sort of not as intelligent. It's not about intelligence because that's so hard to measure, and it's so
So what's the right adjective then?
Well, I think that they're not as ready to learn as they might be with a proper diet of exercise and play.
So let me just pull a scenario out of thin air here. 25 kids in a class, grade 8, they're 13 years old. What kind of exercise and how much exercise would you like to see them do during the course of that school day to make them able to learn better?
Well, the ideal, of course, would be to break it up because the brain changes very acutely, very quickly with a little bit of exercise, 10 to 15 minutes of exercise, because we release all these neurotransmitters and make our attention system and our motivation system better. But that wears off after a while. But the ideal is probably 30 to 40 minutes of pretty intense exercise every day, moderately intense exercise, getting your heart rate up to about 75 to 80% of your maximum heart rate.
So that means more than just pushing the desks aside and running around in circles, I guess. You really got to get outside for that, don't you?
Well, you got to get outside, or you got to get in the gym.
Yeah.
One of the countries that is the model in the European Union is Finland. And the Finns, in terms of the model, because they're performing at the highest level academically and on all the tests, and everybody's interested in what they're doing. Well, what they're doing is they're having their classes an hour long, 45 minutes they're taking the instruction, and 15 minutes in between they're either playing or they're exercising. They're outside or running around. They're doing just what you suggested.